Hey folks, welcome back to the farm. We're in the kitchen here today, but we only got a few things to do in the kitchen. It seems like we have like 100 things to do today, literally. Everything's in full swing, full on summertime, go get it time. So stick around, we've got so much to do today. We're going to try to get some of that done. So you remember on the last video we got all of our beef from our provider, and we've been dealing with that. We'll show you what we've done with the beef. So we had our two big stock pots going yesterday. In one of them we had all of our soup bones and everything that we're cooking down for beef broth and bone broth, which we've got in the process still. And then in this pot we had the heart, the liver, and the soup bones that just had a really humongous bone in them that didn't have a lot of meat, and we cooked that down over here. Now from all of that, we've got all the liver, the heart, and everything in this bowl that we've strained out of the liquid. Now this liquid, because it had liver and everything in it, is not the best flavor. So Kelly's going to give this liquid to the chickens instead of us eating it or canning it for broth. So the chickens really love this stuff, and you can just pour it over a little dry chicken feed, and they just devour it. Now this pot here is our beef broth that we're doing, but we've got some more bones to cook down. We cooked all the marrow bones down in here. Now the soup bones that had a lot of meat on them, we cut the meat off before we threw it in there. And with all that meat, I made taco meat. Taco seasoned meat that we've been eating on for a couple days. I still got half a Ziploc bag in the fridge of that. But we're going to take this, now that it's cooled, we're going to skim the fat off the top, and we'll either give that to the chickens or the dogs. It's really good for them. But the broth that's in there we're going to use to make a good start for our good bone broth, beef broth that we're going to make, because we have some more bones that we need to cook. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. Right now I'm going to put all this meat in a couple big Ziploc bags. What Kelly's going to do with this, since we have no room in the freezer, all of our freezers are full, she's going to freeze dry this meat for the pups, because they will absolutely love that. It'll be a shelf-stable, dry dog food that we don't have to refrigerate, and we can take that like on trips with us and stuff. And the dogs will really love it because they'll have like a crunchy texture, because dogs love to chew on things, of course. So they're absolutely going to love that. Got all of our dog food transferred to bags. Now I call this dog food, but this is obviously okay for human consumption. If you enjoy the flavor of liver and all that and the textures, you're good to go. Even after we freeze dry this, it is still okay for human consumption. So all heck breaks loose and we run out of food, which isn't likely because we prepare pretty well, we could still eat this stuff. Even freeze dried, we could reconstitute it and eat it. So it doesn't have to go to the dogs. We just take really good care of our pups, and we don't waste anything. Anything that they would like, we hold on to it. So I'm going to take this into the downstairs fridge, and I'm going to grab our bones that we need to deal with today. Brought up all our bones we're going to deal with. What I'm going to do is, now that they're thawed out, I want to wash these underwater to get any bone dust off of them from the bandsaw, because the bone dust gives everything an off-putting flavor. So we'll rinse them off real quick. We'll put them in this bowl, and then we're going to go out and fire up the barbecue, and we're going to brown all these bones. There's little meat pieces on them and stuff like that. We're going to get a good browning flavor on them, the Maillard effect, before we put them in the stock pot. Got all of our bones washed. You can see a lot of these bones are left over after they've cut the T-bone up, which there'd be a fillet on one side and New York strip on the other. So that's really good meat that is going to come out in that broth. And we're going to go fire up the barbecue. We'll put a brown on these. The crazy big bones I'm just not going to deal with. They're too hard to deal with in the pot. I'll throw a couple of these out in the yard for Brandy and Ruby. It'll keep them busy, keep them out of trouble while I'm outside. It's okay to give your dogs raw bones, but I would avoid giving them cooked bones because they get brittle and there's a chance that a piece could break off and it could do them some harm in their intestinal tract. So if you're going to give your dog a bone, make sure they're raw. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse my sprouts while I'm here. We sprouted some bean sprouts. We have these cool lids that go on mason jars with vents in them. So you just put your sprouts in there and you rinse them once in the morning and once in the afternoon. And the seeds sprout and eventually you'll get a jar full of sprouts. So we rinse them out. We're going to put these used for supper because they're ready to go. So you turn it upside down, the rest of that water drains out of there. So I should have probably fired the barbecue up before now, but I'll go do it right now. Got the old Masterbuilt fired up. We've been really enjoying this barbecue. It's a gravity feed charcoal barbecue. You can use regular briquettes. You don't have to use pellets or anything. It's super sweet. We've got it fired up to 400 degrees. So we'll wait till it comes up to temperature. We're at 120 already. It doesn't take long once you get the fan going. And we'll put all of our bones on. Okay, we're up to temp. We've got all the bones on the grill. We're going to close this baby up, give them a quick sear, and then we'll pull them off and take them in the house. So we'll get those going. Meanwhile, we're going to make some pups really happy. All right, here you go, girls. Now, no matter which one gets what, just like kids, they're going to want the other. Brandy, you can have one. Ruby can't have both of them. Go ahead and grab one. Ruby. Hey. Go get it. Brandy, have that one there. Good girl. Ruby will go over there and gnaw on that one for a little bit, and then she'll try to come over here and get Brandy's. Well, that'll keep the pups busy for a little bit. I'm going to go inside and deal with our stock pots and get those ready to go. Okay, we've taken all of the juice out of our big stock pot, which had the liver and everything in it, and we put it in here along with the fat from both pots that we have. Now, if you wanted to save the fat off of the good pot, it's really good for cooking and stuff like that, and much better for you than those hydrogenated oils that they've fooled you into thinking was better for you. But I'm using a lot of olive oil right now, so I don't need to save that because olive oil fits in with my diet. So we've got all of the liquid from the good pot in here to give us a good starter base for our bone broth, and I think we're going to need the big pot for as many bones as we have. Now, I try to always cook this kind of stuff in stainless steel. I used to cook in a lot of aluminum pots because they're cheaper, you can get them bigger, but there's a lot of studies that say aluminum contributes to Alzheimer's and dementia and stuff like that, and the aluminum leaches out into your food. I've seen it when you clean the pots, that aluminum oxide comes out in the water. So even like your antiperspirants that you use have a lot of aluminum oxide in it. So I would try to steer clear from that. I watched my dad die basically of Alzheimer's and dementia, so I'm steering clear. So now we should be able to go out and check our bones. They should be just about ready to pull. Boy, it sure smells good out here, that's for sure. They're looking pretty good. They're starting to get nice and brown. I think we're going to give it a few more minutes. Now, just as I told you would happen, Ruby has abandoned her original bone, and she's coming over here and commandeered Brandy's bone. Always happens no matter which one I give which. And then Brandy doesn't put up a fight. She just lets Ruby have it. I don't know why, because Brandy will win a fight if it ever comes down to it, because you see him scrap every now and then. And Brandy, and it's play scrapping. But Brandy always gets the upper hand, so I don't know why she bows down to Ruby all the time. Maybe she's just being a nice sister. Okay, I think we're at a good point with our bones here. They've got a nice browning on them. That'll not only help the color of our beef broth, but it's also going to improve the flavor. So we'll get a little bit off of that smoke too. We're going to put all these back in our bowl. We don't have to worry about cross-contamination, so I didn't go rinse the bowl out, because these are going to cook a whole lot longer. So we're going to put them right back in there. Okay, into the pot we go with our bones. We're going to layer them in there. We'll season them with a little salt as we go. Just whatever you would normally put on this amount of meat or bones as it goes in. Get them loaded up. Got our last installment of bones in there. We're going to add a little more salt to this layer. That way you make sure you don't over salt. If you only put the amount of salt you would put on it if you were going to eat one of those pieces. So now we're going to add some vegetable into the pot, some carrots, onion, and celery. Because when I use broth like this, or this stock that we're going to make, I don't usually have leftovers that I'm cooking down that I can cook the vegetables in. So we want to fortify this stock ahead of time, because we probably won't have the stuff we need to make the stock as we go, like we did if you're watching the alphabet soup recipe the other day where we made it from scratch. So let's get those in. Got our veggies in. I got a whole onion in here, and the equivalent of that with celery and carrots. Also, they call it the Trinity. So we want to season our vegetable layer also. You don't want to put anything in here unseasoned, because that just detracts from your flavor. So a little salt and pepper. Now if you have vegetables that are on their way out, like if you've got celery that's getting rubbery or carrots that are on their way out, give them a good rinse and put them in here. As long as they don't show any signs of decay, this is a perfect use for them. Now we also have some herbs that are on their way out, because they're last year's herbs, and we have more that we're drying already from this year. So we'll use a bunch of this. This is a bunch of rosemary, and that's really going to be really good for the mix. Then we have some store-bought thyme here that we ended up from Mom's house. So we'll add probably that whole thing in there is fine. And then we have some leftover parsley from last year. We'll add that to the mix. So I think I've got some old garlic that I'm going to cut up and throw in here, and then we'll be ready to put it in the water. We put just enough water in here to cover, and then you don't want to add too much water because it'll dilute your broth down and you won't have as good of a flavor. And when we stacked our bones in there too, we were real careful when we stacked the bones in that we didn't leave a lot of open space, because again, we don't want to have to add too much water. So we're going to light up our burner, and we're going to put her on low, put the lid on, and this is going to simmer for a good long time. Alright folks, little wardrobe change, because we're going to go out and do some work in the garden while these bones cook down. It's going to be several hours, so we have time to do garden work, which is some of those 100 things we got to get done today. You won't see that on this video, but you'll see it on the next one or next couple. So we're going to go out and start doing that. Now the carnivore in me couldn't stand it. I left one of the really good bones here on the grill. Got a little bit of filet on here and a little bit of the New York. Can't resist. Good Nebraska beef, folks. Can't beat that. Well, that is smelling amazing. Crazy good smell here in the kitchen. Alright, checking out our beef broth. The meat isn't just completely falling off the bone yet, even though a little bit of it is. Some of it is still hanging on. So we're going to continue to simmer this. But look at the deep brown color of this. Man, that's going to be so good. So, catch you later. Okay, we've turned the fire off. All the meat and everything is coming off the bones real easily now. So we're going to let this cool down, and then we'll start extracting the bones out of the pot, cleaning them out. We'll take whatever meat and everything that has fallen off the bone, anything that isn't bone, we'll add to the dog food that Kelly's making. and then we'll have just our fantastic broth. We'll strain it out, and then we'll probably let it cool in the refrigerator downstairs. It'll get a nice fat cap on the top that we will pull off, and then we will can this broth. We've removed all the bones from our stock pot. So now the bones have cooled off. I'm separating the bones from the meat. We'll add that meat to the freeze-dried dog food that Kelly's going to do for the dogs. And then all the bones can go in the garbage. Okay, got it all separated. Too bad we do not have a pulverizer. We could pulverize all the bones that we collect here on the farm, because that bone meal would be fantastic for the garden. We're going to add this to our partial bag of dog treats down there. All right, we strained all of our stock out of our pot into our container here. You can see we have that layer of grease on top. So we've got just about 2 quarts left of broth. The fantastic stuff. We're going to put this in the downstairs refrigerator, and then all of this grease overnight will congeal, and we can lift that off like a lid in the morning, and all we'll have left is that beautiful stock. It's only 2 quarts because we used about 1.5 quarts for supper tonight, so otherwise we'd had almost 1 gallon of stock. All right, folks, next morning you can see our fat layer is congealed, hardened up. We should be able to pull that right off the top. Need to break it loose from the container, so we'll just go around with a knife. That should do it. Cut it in a few pieces so we can get it out of here. So there it is. We can scrape our broth off of there because our broth has so much gelatin in it. Our broth is no longer liquid. It goes to show you how thick our broth, or rich our broth is. That got so much gelatin and it's really good for you. You might not know that they make Jell-O out of bones. It's an animal product, and they just flavor it with stuff. Seems kind of weird, doesn't it? But I still like Jell-O. Here you go. So there's all of our fat. It comes off a lot easier when it's cold. Now I'm guessing, folks, Kelly could probably take this stuff, put it in the freeze dryer, and dry it out and make like a dry beef bouillon with it, I would guess. Because I don't know why that wouldn't work. I'm going to have to run that by her. We may have to try that someday. Now, because this is no longer liquid, I got an idea. Instead of canning this, I'm going to try to vacuum seal it and put it in the freezer. That worked pretty slick. Put our double seal on there. That's going to work out just fine, and we don't have to can it. Not that that would be too difficult. there we go. Beautiful beef stock in a bag. Don't have a lot of room in the freezer, but got plenty of room to fit little packages like this, and this will be real easy to get out and use. Takes up a lot less space too. All right, we got 3 packages of our beef stock, just beautiful gelatinous stuff. That explains why it was so yummy in our soup last night. Now this is basically the way they make scrapple and like head cheese and stuff like that too, the pressed meat. You'll cook the meat down off of the bones like we did, and you'll have all the bones, and you get all that gelatin. So when your meat cooks down, you separate it out, you place it in a mold, and you pour this juice to fill in all the gaps, and then you put it in the fridge. It's usually a press type deal too, like we make our lunch meat in, and then you get a formed meat with this gelatin. Acts like a glue, holds everything together. Well, that's it for the bone broth. Hope you enjoyed the process. It was pretty fun. And don't waste your bones, cook them down, make some really good stock with it. Made that fantastic soup last night. Stick around for that recipe. It'll be in one of the upcoming videos. Amazing, amazing stuff. So we're going to get this in the freezer. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Come back and see us here at the farm.